Welcome to my channel, where stories of love, mystery, and the unknown come alive. Today's story begins on a quiet night in the orbiting human colony of Epsilon Prime, where one lonely human engineer found himself with an unexpected new roommate, an alien woman who said she wanted to understand human love. At first, he thought it was a translation error, but when her deep violet eyes lingered too long, and her voice softened with each word, he realized she meant it in every possible way. She was a Zyrene, tall, graceful, and curious about everything human. Her kind viewed emotion as weakness, but she had chosen to study it, to live beside one human and learn the feeling humans called love. The first nights were awkward, filled with questions that sounded innocent but carried weight. "Why do humans touch?" she asked one evening, leaning close as if to feel his heartbeat. The air between them grew warmer, thicker with something unspoken. He tried to stay composed, reminding himself this was science for her, nothing more, but the way she said his name told him otherwise. As days passed, her curiosity became something else entirely. She began mimicking human affection. Smiles, gentle gestures, accidental touches that lingered longer each time. When she cooked for him, it wasn't just food. It was care. When she asked to sit closer on the couch, it wasn't just comfort. It was yearning. But beneath her calm exterior, something deeper stirred, something forbidden among her species. She confessed that the Zyrene Council had warned her against emotional entanglement with humans, calling it contamination. "Still," she whispered, "I want to feel what you feel, even if it breaks me." That night, the mystery of her request deepened. She invited him to join her research lab, a dimly lit chamber filled with soft blue light and humming energy fields. In the center was a neural link device, designed to share emotions between species. She wanted to connect minds, hearts, and sensations. "Only through sharing can I understand love," she said. He hesitated, knowing the dangers, but the tenderness in her voice disarmed every warning. As the device activated, their consciousness merged, and suddenly he could feel her. Every flicker of curiosity, every tremor of desire, every trace of fear. And she felt him, his warmth, his confusion, his longing. The connection was more intimate than touch, more consuming than words. The next morning, everything changed. She avoided his gaze, trembling as if something inside her had awakened. Her alien composure was gone. In its place stood someone vulnerable, almost human. "I shouldn't feel this," she said, her voice shaking. "But I do." The experiment had become real. The emotions she once sought to study were now burning through her like fire. When he reached out to comfort her, she didn't pull away. The barriers between them, species, duty, logic, fell away. For the first time, an alien who thought love was weakness finally understood its power. Their final night together was silent, filled with unspoken truths. She stood by the window, watching Earth's light rise over the horizon, her silver skin reflecting the dawn. "They will recall me soon," she said. "The Council will never allow this bond." He stepped closer, his hand finding hers. "Then let them come," he whispered. "They'll learn what love really means." In that moment, time seemed to stop, the human and the alien, two hearts beating in defiance of every law written by their worlds. As the stars dimmed and the ship carried her away, she left behind a single message. "I came to study love. Instead, it studied me." And he knew that somewhere in the vastness of space, she still felt the connection that began with curiosity and ended with devotion. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more romantic and mysterious tales that cross galaxies and hearts. Love knows no species, no distance, and no limits, only the courage to feel. The days that followed were quiet, yet charged with something neither of them could name. The alien, whose name was Lyra, moved through the small living quarters with an elegance that made the air feel heavy. She asked endless questions about human life, why people hugged, why they kissed, why they longed for someone even when they couldn't have them. Each question was innocent on the surface, but her tone carried a warmth that stirred something inside him. He tried to answer scientifically at first, explaining hormones, bonds, and instincts. But Lyra didn't want data. She wanted to feel. One evening, she watched him repair a communications panel. Her head tilted slightly as her silver hair shimmered under the low light. "Humans create things when they care," she said softly. "Even when those things break, they fix them. I wonder, do you do the same with your hearts?" The question struck him deeper than expected. He told her that sometimes humans couldn't fix what was broken inside. Sometimes love hurt too much to heal. Lyra's gaze softened, and she whispered, "Then maybe that is what makes you beautiful." As the nights grew longer, she began to act more human. She laughed, smiled, and started humming strange little melodies she claimed came from her homeworld's ocean winds. One night, when the temperature dropped, she appeared in his doorway wrapped in a blanket, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Humans share warmth when it is cold," she said. "May I try that?" He froze, unsure how to respond. But her voice trembled slightly, not from fear, but from anticipation. When she sat beside him, their shoulders touched. Her skin was cooler than his, but the moment lingered, filled with tension that felt both dangerous and right. He wanted to ask what this meant, what she was doing, but then she turned her face toward him and whispered, "When humans hold each other, what do they think about?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked into her eyes and said softly, "They stop thinking." Lyra closed her eyes for a long moment, breathing in the stillness, as if memorizing what that felt like. The closeness changed something between them, an invisible shift that neither could undo. What began as curiosity had grown into something that neither science nor reason could explain. The alien who came to study human love was now tangled in its mystery, and she wasn't ready for where it was leading her. The following morning, Lyra avoided him. She moved quietly around the living quarters, her silver eyes never meeting his. The change was subtle but undeniable. She no longer asked questions or smiled when he walked in. Something had shifted after that night. He could feel it like a current in the air, an energy that pulled them together even as she tried to stay away. When he finally spoke her name, she froze mid-step. "I felt something I shouldn't," she said softly, her voice trembling like a confession. "My people call it corruption. To feel attachment toward another species is a breach of order." He tried to comfort her, but she took a step back, her expression caught between fear and longing. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If the Zyrene Council detects emotional contamination, they'll erase the connection, and me along with it." Her words sent a chill through him. He realized that what was growing between them wasn't just forbidden, it was dangerous. But even in fear, he saw a spark of defiance in her. "Still," she murmured, "I can't stop wanting to understand you." That night, he found her on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The vast stretch of space reflected in her eyes as she spoke without turning. "Do humans always feel this much when they love?" she asked. "It hurts, but it's beautiful." He stood beside her, close enough to feel her presence. "It's what makes us alive," he said quietly. Lyra turned to him then, her voice breaking. "Then I want to be alive, even if it means breaking everything I am." She stepped closer, her trembling hand brushing against his chest. The air between them tightened, and for a moment, time stopped. Every instinct told him to walk away, to protect her from what she feared, but the way her eyes softened made it impossible. Their lips met, hesitant at first, then deepening with every heartbeat. It wasn't a study anymore. It wasn't curiosity. It was surrender. When they finally pulled apart, she whispered, "Now I understand why humans risk everything for this." But as the glow of the stars dimmed, a silent alarm blinked red on the console. A transmission had been received from the Zyrene Council. Her time on the station was being reviewed, and Lyra, who had finally learned what it meant to love, now stood on the edge of losing everything because of it. Lyra's hands trembled as the console flickered with the glowing Zyrene symbols, her pale skin catching the red pulse of the warning light. The council's voice came through cold and measured, commanding her immediate return for evaluation. She turned toward him, fear glinting behind her calm expression. "They know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The neural network recorded emotional interference. They traced it back to me. He stepped closer, his chest tightening as the truth sank in. Their connection, every heartbeat, every shared breath, had been captured and transmitted. He tried to reason with her, to tell her they could hide the signal, override the transmission, do anything to protect what they had. But she shook her head slowly. They will come, and if they find me here with you, they will see your emotions too. They will erase it from your memory. Erase me. Her words shattered something deep within him. The thought of forgetting her, the sound of her voice, the warmth of her touch, felt like a death worse than any real one. Then I'll fight them, he said firmly, his voice low and shaking. They can't take this away from us. Lyra looked at him as if seeing him for the first time, her eyes wet with something more than fear, something human. You would risk everything for a feeling? She asked. For me. He nodded without hesitation. You wanted to understand love, Lyra. This is it. It's not safe, it's not logical, but it's real. For a moment, she just stared at him, her lips parting as if she couldn't breathe. Then she stepped forward and pressed her forehead to his, whispering, "Then let me feel it, one last time." The lights dimmed as she activated the neural link once more. Blue light spilled across the room, wrapping them in a soft hum that blurred thought and space. This time, the connection was different. Deeper, rawer, almost desperate. He could feel her fear and desire all at once, and she felt his heart break, his love, his determination to hold on. Their minds intertwined, two species bound by a pulse that no law could erase. But just as the light began to fade, an echo entered the link, a cold, mechanical intrusion. The council had breached the connection. Voices hissed through the air, demanding disconnection, calling it contamination, corruption, sin. Lyra gasped as pain shot through her, the signal burning her neural patterns. He tried to pull her away from the interface, but she clung to him, her voice breaking. Don't let go, please. He held her as the alarms blared, the lab bathed in crimson light. The neural device sparked, shorting out as she collapsed against him. The connection shattered, leaving only silence and the fading sound of her heartbeat. She looked up weakly, her voice trembling. Now I understand. Love isn't what I thought. It's sacrifice. And then she closed her eyes, the faint glow of her skin flickering like a dying star. He carried her to the medbay, his heart pounding harder than the alarms still echoing through the corridors. Lyra's breathing was faint, her pulse barely detectable beneath her cool skin. The neural link had burned through parts of her memory core. She was fading piece by piece. He worked desperately, patching the circuits, stabilizing her vitals, whispering her name like it could keep her anchored to him. Stay with me, Lyra. Please. Her eyelids fluttered, her voice soft and fractured. You feel so much. It hurts, but I don't want it to stop. He stayed by her side through the night, refusing to sleep, his hand never leaving hers. Outside, the stars drifted past in silence, the world shrinking to the sound of her slow, fragile breaths. When she finally opened her eyes again, there was something different about her, calmer, but distant. The link, it burned away my connection to the council, she whispered weakly. I'm free now, but I don't know how long this freedom will last. He wanted to tell her everything would be fine, that they'd escape, that love could save her, but he couldn't lie. The ship's sensors had detected an incoming vessel, the Zyrene retrieval team. They were already on their way. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. They'll take me, and if they find you, they'll end you too. He shook his head firmly. Then they'll have to go through me first. Lyra reached out, her fingers tracing his jaw with a tenderness that made his chest ache. You can't fight them all, human, she said softly. But you can remember me. She leaned in and pressed her lips to his, a kiss that felt like the beginning and the end at once. Warm, fragile, desperate. The glow beneath her skin flared once, then dimmed. I linked part of myself to you, she whispered. Even if they erase me, a piece of me will stay inside you. He didn't understand at first. Not until the scanners showed a faint neural pattern embedded within his mind, the remnant of her essence. She smiled faintly, her voice barely audible. You said love makes us alive. Then maybe now, I'll live through you. As the Zyrene warship's shadow loomed across the viewport, he held her close, his tears falling silently into her silver hair. The alarms grew louder, but he didn't move. He had made his choice long before this moment. If they wanted her, they would have to tear her memory from his soul. And as the docking clamps locked in place and the doors began to open, he whispered, "You came to study love, Lyra, but you became the meaning of it." The metallic hiss of the airlock filled the corridor as the Zyrene retrieval team stormed aboard, their armor gleaming like polished obsidian. He stood his ground, shielding Lyra's fragile body behind him. The lead officer, tall and expressionless, raised a weapon that hummed with cold energy. "Human, step aside. The experiment ends now." His heart pounded, but he didn't move. "She's not an experiment," he said through clenched teeth. "She's alive. She's loved." The alien commander's tone was icy. "Love is not real. It is chemical chaos. You have infected her." The words cut deep, but before he could speak, a soft light began to glow from behind him. Lyra was standing, weak but radiant, her silver skin shimmering with faint blue waves. "He didn't infect me," she said quietly, her voice trembling but sure. "He awakened me." The commander hesitated, lowering his weapon slightly. "Lyra, you're compromised," he warned. "Return for purification." She shook her head, her eyes glowing brighter. "If love is corruption, then I choose to be corrupted." The energy in the room shifted. The neural residue she had left inside him began to pulse, resonating with her presence. The scanners on the commander's wrist overloaded, showing impossible readings. Two consciousnesses linked, bridging species. "It's not contamination," the human said firmly. "It's connection." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Lyra stepped forward and took his hand. "They can erase data," she said softly, "but they can't erase what we feel." The retrieval team froze as her body began to shimmer, merging her neural pattern with the link she had left inside him. "What are you doing?" the commander shouted. Lyra turned one last time, her voice filled with warmth and sorrow. "Finishing the experiment." With a blinding burst of light, her body dissolved into pure energy, surging into his chest. The impact threw him to the floor. When the light faded, she was gone. No body, no trace, only the faint echo of her voice inside his mind. Silence followed. The Zyrenes scanned the room, their instruments failing to detect her. "She's lost," one muttered. The commander glared at him one last time before turning away. "Then let her be a lesson. Love destroys." They left, vanishing into the stars. He lay there for hours, staring at the empty ceiling, until a familiar voice whispered faintly in his thoughts. "I'm still here." His breath caught, his hand trembling. "Lyra?" The voice smiled inside him, warm and soft. "Part of me will always be." He looked out the window, watching the endless night of space. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more tales of love that cross galaxies, hearts, and impossible boundaries. Because sometimes the most human thing in the universe is to love something not meant to be yours.